Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with a Vet. My name is Carol Lee. I have a wonderful guest waiting in the wings for us. A couple things that I wanted to discuss first if you haven't already gone out and taken a look at this book, it's called You Just Survive, Combat Chaos and the Quiet Battles That Follow You Home by Jeffrey A. Simmonds. Go check it out. This is a veteran authored book. Great read. Additionally, book number 2 by Frank DeMyth, and that is Defending the Eagle. And he is an Army veteran, and he had 28 years of service. And he's hoping for a whole 7 series. So great read. This is a fictional book. Great read. Absolutely wonderful. And additionally, we have Gunners. That is the second book. This is the B-29 Machine Gunners in the Korean War. That is written by James Blackwell. And go check this one out as well. He's got a couple other books out there, so please go check them out and support our veterans. Also, those 3 books, for one, those are going to be, when we hit the next milestone, going to be giveaways. They were provided by the authors themselves. I also do have, that has been here waiting, Aegis Gun Care. So this little backpack is filled with gun cleaning from our friends over at Aegis Gun Care. So thank you, and a big shout out to them. They're really making some great progress over there with the cleaning supplies for your firearms, etc. So you can go to them, aegis.com, and check them out as well. Okay, so without further ado, please help me welcome William Simmonds. Hello, sir.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks so very much for agreeing to come on. I know you were sick last week. How are you feeling today?
Oh, I've been down. I think everybody's got this flu thing going around. It's been passed around my office quite a bit. So,
I hear that there's like some kind of fungus that's going around that's not.
No idea.
Yeah.
It ends up always happening right on my days off, though. That's typically how it works. So it's okay. At least it didn't get in the way of. I know, right? Yeah, definitely didn't get in front of somebody's phone call. So we'll be okay.
Yeah.
I apologize for the delay.
No worries. And I'm glad you're mobile anyway, right?
Yeah, we're upright. A little scruffy, unfortunately. Normally a little bit more clean shaven, but
that's okay. That's all right. So I always like to start asking my guests a little bit about themselves. And to start, why don't you tell me a little bit about who you were as a child?
Oh, man.
We're digging deep here.
Growing up, I was Willie. Yeah, Willie, the baseball player. I think that's probably the best description about what I did. I had a pretty good foundation. Mom and dad were at home both, and 3 siblings and myself. So 4 of us kids, and mom was always there. So, that was all very good and wonderful.
Excellent.
Sports controlled everything. And when I wasn't doing sports,
you played baseball.
I did quite a bit of baseball.
What position?
Pitched and first base.
Okay,
those were
excellent.
My 2
That's one of my favorite sports.
It was so much fun. So many years on the baseball field for sure. I was actually talking to my mom about that this morning, how much I enjoyed all that. So yeah, a lot of baseball. And I think the big thing that really got me into military, thinking back on it, GI Joes, and I was such a dork of a child. I really I studied the American Civil War. Ken Burns' Civil War had just come out, right in that time frame. And I think I sat down and I read that whole book, all 400 pages of it as a 10-year-old. And I was hooked on military from that point forward. Nice. Had to go to West Point, had to, just too many heroes and legends in those stories. And just the thought of fighting somebody from our own country, just to me was hurt my brain as a young kid.
I can imagine. Did you like school? Were you studious at all?
I did. I love school. Honestly, I was, that's part of my childhood. We had a perfectionist father who expected that perfection in academics, and that was okay. To me, it didn't really bother me that much. I appreciated the push, and frankly, I needed it. And ultimately develops an endless learning mentality, and I always felt very comfortable in school and always wanted to go to school as a result.
Nice. Nice. So you decide when, is it when you graduate, you decide you want to join the military? How did that come about? And what was it that made you decide to join not only that, but the branch that you chose?
Oh boy. Man, really good question. So I took an interesting detour when I was in high school. I really got into architecture, art and architecture. My mother
Okay.
is very uh, right brained, very artistic, just free spirit. My father is very logical. He's a physician. My mother's an artist. So I have this right brain, left brain
You
fight
get the best of both worlds.
constantly, and it's been that way my whole life. So I got into architecture. It was kind of that balancing of both of them, and it really, it felt like a practical art. It felt like something that dad would approve of, that mom would approve of, something that I started with. And I was a little defiant, I would say, as a high school kid, and I really wanted to go out east. I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, very much conservative upbringing, and I wanted to explore East Coast, big city, see what architecture was going to, what kind of influences I could get out there. Mom and dad were like, "Nah, dude, you can't. We can't afford that. You're going to have to go pay for that yourself." So I left. I left home at 18. I started a business with some friends, and we designed fiber optic networks for telecom providers. Kind of something crazy that an 18-year-old would do, but ultimately I played a lot of hockey, I played a lot of baseball. I could rollerblade better than most people could walk, and I could do 10 times the distance with my rollerblades that everybody else
Okay.
could on their feet. So that's what I did. I skated, and I made the money in order to go to school out east, and that's how college started for me. On my own, hadn't it was that summer before college was about to start, and this was right during that .com bubble burst, and made a ton of money and lost everything, and it was
Mm,
awful, and it was exciting, and it was awful, but it was also you know first big lesson of this is a
yeah.
big old world and you're a little fish in it. And ultimately crawled back to mom and dad, agreed to go to architecture school at Ball State, Indiana, Ball State in Muncie, Indiana. And when I got there, I was like, you made all this money, you blew all this money. It doesn't really seem fair that mom and dad are paying for college. So I joined the National Guard purely to just pay for education. That's
And
why I joined.
what did your folks think of that?
Um, ha! I came from a non-military family, so
Mm,
this was something that I don't know if it was really shocking to them, given how much I had studied it and how much you know
yeah.
captain of sports teams. It just I fit the mold, other than Boy Scout, and that was pretty much the only thing I didn't really do that I think most everybody else did. But at the end of the day, I didn't get any flack for it. It certainly was. Well, see what happens. And then
And what year was
9/11
that?
happened.
Okay.
That was August 25th of 9/11 of 2001. So I mean, it couldn't have been better timing across the board. And yeah, 9/11 happened. I'm in architecture school watching buildings come down. And, at the time, we were thinking that those buildings were targeted to kill people. And, they were. But I didn't want to contribute to the death of people. I wanted to protect people. And to me, that was it. I left National Guard and I went active duty. And when I went over to the recruiter's office, they're like, well, we got a ton of infantry. We don't have any Arabic crypto linguists. So that's where I went. I went to Arabic school and
Wow.
shipped off to basic right after 9/11.
So, okay. So let's put that in chronological order then. So
Mhm.
you go to basic first, or you go to the linguist school first?
I went to basic training first. So I
Okay.
actually started as National Guard, but I hadn't gone to basic yet. So it was like sort of hanging out with my homies, without really being in the military. And I didn't know what the heck was happening. It was as stressful as heck, times. So it was like, okay,
Yeah.
just do what you gotta do. And it ended up being, I mean, it was the worst decision. It was the best decision. My unit ended up getting deployed 6, 7 times in the time that I would have been at architecture school. And every one of those guys, went over to Iraq multiple times. And I went to Arabic school in California. So it was just unbelievable.
Let's go back and talk about how it was for you when you first get and step on base for your basic training. What
Mm.
was going through your mind?
Oh shit! Here we go. sorry for the sorry
No,
for
this is
the
your channel.
language.
This is your channel.
Honestly, it was having not really been in a military family, and uh, I think I was always sort of the guy who laughed it off, and I was smart enough to get around any sticky situation. I think in high school, but in military, it was, oh, okay, here we go. And I could see, and I think maybe I was intelligent enough to understand that, it was a game, basic training, and you just had to fall in line, and it's just a training, more than anything else. But man, I felt proud of what I was doing. I think more than anything else, I felt like I was part of something big. I was part of something that I that I couldn't understand the scope of how big it was, and the history behind that. And that honestly, I think having the appreciation for that from the very beginning at basic training was the catalyst for appreciating each of the different military schools that I attended as I, went through my very short military career. But it certainly was it was something that I appreciated
Yeah.
and paid a lot of attention to as I was going through it.
So, do you recall how you felt when the drill instructor started in your face screaming and yelling?
you know, uh, what did I feel like? I felt like the fish tank, and it was such a blur. But I very much remember the don't be the last. I guess remember thinking, don't be the reason why everything else is screwed up. Just be as small as you can for those first few days until I could
Yeah.
kind of figure out what was going on.
You're in basic training. Obviously, you told your folks what you were doing. What at that point, now that you're no longer National Guard, what are your folks thinking? Do you recall?
Um, I think they had some time to transition after 9/11. And they very clearly at 9/11, it was some troubling thoughts. And at that, prior to basic training, we didn't know that I was going to be an Arabic linguist. We just knew that I was going to go to Intel school and that I was going out to DLI. But eventually the language would be assigned. So for all intents and purposes at the beginning, it was just going to school, just going to the basic and, going through indoctrination. My parents, probably more than anything, were curious as to what was happening. I think more than anything else, rather than a fear, just because it was a very foreign thing for our family. I mean, my
Right.
grandfather on my father's side was in the Navy, but I think only briefly for as a result of some schooling or something like a dental school, I think, or something interesting, but not your typical military. And
Yeah.
nothing on my mom's side that I know of. I'm sorry to anybody that I don't know, but
No,
the
no,
truth
that's
is
okay. That's
it
all
was
right.
we were very non-military family, so it was more of a curiosity than anything else from mom and dad. But I had incredibly supportive people when I was at basic. My mom wrote letters, not every day, but at least every other day or every third day or so. And if you knew my mom, I mean, this is what she's done her whole life is write postcards and letters to people. So it was
Yeah.
just a slice of home all over again, which was really nice. Even just the conversations of stuff that I had no idea what was going on. It just felt like, just felt like the usual, and that was okay. That was great. And on top of that, I had a girlfriend at the time who, I honestly, I haven't even talked to her about this over the years, but one of the things that she did was she wrote me letters every day. And in those letters, she kind of sneak in song lyrics. And then on graduation from basic training, she showed up and she gave me this burnt CD with all of
Nice.
the collection of all those songs that you can't hear that music when you're in basic. So you're trying to figure out what the song is. And then all of a sudden you leave and there's this mixtape of your basic training. And you're like, I mean, to me, it was just like the perfect feeling of everything, that all of those memories and thoughts of that time there. And it ended up being an incredibly powerful gift afterwards. I
Nice.
liked it very much.
So your time in basic training, do
Mhm.
you recall any funny stories with your platoon? Anything that you can think of?
Oh, funny. No, I didn't really have anything funny. I think the funniest, it'd be ironic more than anything else. We were at the CPR day, whatever, life saving CPR day.
Hmm.
And we had just literally gone through the class of CPR. Um, and we took a lunch break. And during that lunch break, one of the kids in the platoon started choking on his Salisbury steak. And he
Oh,
had like 30 people in the room who knew how to do CPR because they had literally just trained it. And I was sitting there, I was in complete shock that this had just happened. But no joke. I mean, it was the safest place for anyone to ever choke on.
I
But
presume he was okay. The
he was
Heimlich was,
totally fine.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
it was so funny though, because at the end of it, I mean, it wasn't funny at the time. Obviously, everyone was
Right.
freaked out. But afterwards, you're like, what are the freaking odds that would happen? It was pretty funny
It is interesting
afterwards.
too. Something similar had happened with me. I had taken, and this was in the early 90s, and I had taken a first aid CPR course. And of course, they teach you the Heimlich and all of that. And then there was a coworker of mine who had the same birth date. And so decided I was going to take her to lunch to celebrate our birthdays. And we went to lunch and we had ordered mozzarella sticks to share. And she had taken a bite and they were super hot. And it got, that I have this fear ever
Right.
since then of mozzarella sticks, especially with children. And, it got stuck. And
Oh,
I had to do the Heimlich maneuver on her. It was like, I don't know, it was less than a month, I think, that between the time that, of course, I'd known how to do the Heimlich. I mean, the kind of, you know,
sure.
you learn that stuff, but just over time. But the actual, in an actual classroom setting, learned all of that. And here I am having to do the Heimlich on her. And, but it was crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was
How
insane. So
right?
yeah. I
Immediate
absolutely,
application of lessons learned. So there you go.
right. And it's one of those you hope to never, ever,
Never.
ever have to do.
Right.
But I remember twice when I was young, I choked. Both times it was hot
Ooh,
dogs. Once I was so little, I was in a high chair, and I remember getting yanked out of the high chair. Like the tray came flying off. The next thing I know, I'm
yeah.
being grabbed by my ankle and flipped upside down and beat the hell out of till it popped out. And the other time I was at a friend's house, and I was like, I don't know, 8 or 10, something like that, and choked on a hot dog. Also, like it was like already cut up pieces, but they were whole pieces. They weren't, smaller little pieces. And yeah,
Unbelievable.
and had to have the Heimlich done on me. So yeah,
You have
another
to be a
reason why I learned
vegetarian.
it.
Yeah.
I like meat too much.
I know.
That's not going to happen.
Not gonna happen.
Give me a steak any day of the week. I'm good.
Of course, of course.
So, okay. So you get through basic,
Yeah.
and your family comes to graduation. Were they able to make it outside of your girlfriend?
They did. My mom and my dad came, which was pretty amazing.
That's
Honestly,
awesome.
yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
think probably the first time my father looked at me like a man, after graduating basic. Not, that was some growth there, both for both of our parts. I think that was,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes, and I know you and I have had the conversation. I am not a veteran, but I do have
Mhm.
two veteran sons. So I do
Thank you.
recall the graduation of, of one of them going through and being there, and just the sense of pride
Yeah.
that as a parent you have for your child. So thank you again for that. Now, as we move forward in your story, from there, you don't go to AIT, you just go directly to your linguist school, or
Yeah, it's interesting for the Intel guys. It gets a little weird in there, just because AIT for a crypto linguist is a year and a half. That's the school alone. So, some of those infantry guys, they go to basic for 12, 15 weeks or whatever, and then they stack their AIT right on top of it, and they're out of there
Mhm.
in a few months. It's a little different story for for other schools and things. So for me, I went to basic at Fort Jackson. You do your regular basic time and then you split apart. I took a flight to Monterey, California, just terrible, out to DLI. And from there, got hung out on a detail of breaking big rocks into smaller rocks for a little bit. Again, in Monterey, California. It's just
Right. Oh yeah.
absolutely
Yep.
atrocious. Going for a run on the beach every day, ugh, woe is me.
Terrible.
Um, but then we got pulled into a room and you kind of draw straws for the languages. And I was sitting next to an army vet or an army, a soldier, and she pulled Arabic and I pulled Korean. And we kind of looked at each other and they said, you can trade if you want to. And we just handed it off. And that was it. That's how I got, that's
What
what.
made you decide that you wanted to learn Arabic?
Better to be me.
Okay. All
I
right.
think that was it. I knew where we were going and I knew why we were going there. And I knew we had unfinished business. And yeah,
You wanted to be able to
just,
understand what you were hearing.
yeah, I mean, at the end of it, it was just I wasn't here for a pedestrian military experience. If I was going to do it, I
Yeah.
was going to do it.
Yeah.
And, and honestly, nothing against Korea whatsoever. In fact, I have so many Korean clients now. It's unbelievable. I just, I didn't really have a whole lot of interest or desire to go to Korea. And, I suppose I had even less desire to go to Iraq or Saudi Arabia, but I felt like it was where the metal hit the meat.
Right. Yeah. Which makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
So tell me about what it was like going through the linguist school. Like,
Oh boy,
did
so
it go
much
with
fun.
what you expected? I mean, or what you had
Mm-mm.
in your mind, what you envisioned it would be?
No, where I had a very, there's a lot of good intel out there about what basic training is like before you go to basic.
Correct. Yeah.
There was essentially no intel that I could find about what Arabic school was like before going to DLI. Um, what was it really cool? Probably the first experience that I had where I got my ass kicked in an educational environment. Just
Really?
extremely difficult, especially the Arabic language, extremely difficult. And then on top of it, it's immersion. You're dropped into a classroom and you're taught by native speakers. Most are Syrian or Iraqis, some Jordanians that were over there. But I mean, ultimately, they're teaching you how to speak the language in Arabic, and you're sink or swim, man. Good luck. That's kind of how it goes from the beginning. And it's definitely a process to get going. And
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, I'm sure we didn't have all of our days being 12, 14-hour days, but I very much remember multiple days of studying all day long in classroom all day long, and then break times to go run and work out on the beach, in Monterey. But most of the time, really just sitting in a classroom or in a workbook, for lack of a better term, of hooked on phonics for Arabic. And you start at the basics, and by the end of 6 months, you're basically speaking kindergarten level Arabic.
That's fair though. I still
Yeah.
remember my hooked on phonics back in the day in the early 70s,
Yeah.
little pieces of cardboard with letters on them, and you just kind of put them together.
That's essentially what it was. I mean, it was flashcards and
Yeah.
groupthink. Working with other people in the barracks and trying to building your study groups and stuff like that.
How
So
many were in
definitely
your
not your
class?
military. Wow. Let's see. So they have rolling cohorts. Oh man, we're really talking about ancient history here now, but I'm
We
sure they
are.
do it differently now. Um, but back then, we probably had three classrooms of 12 to 15 people going simultaneously, and the people in your classroom are kind of at your level, and
Okay.
it's basically just chit chatting and foreign language all day long. Really low, just
Uh,
extremely high intensity. But you
yes.
know,
And when you were in high school, did you ever have to take a foreign language?
I did. My parents really wanted me to take Spanish, so naturally I took French because it's the
You're a twin.
opposite.
I get
'Cause
it. Yeah.
well, I also played hockey, so baseball and hockey. I played a lot of hockey, and it just seemed more likely that I would speak Canadian with my love of hockey than Spanish. Now, of course, I live in Florida, so that was the one damn thing I really could have used was a lot of Spanish, but that's
Right.
okay.
So French versus Arabic,
Mhm.
there's really not much correlation, is there?
You
Or
say that, but I can't even tell you. It's probably, and I only was in Arabic school for about a year, a little short of a year, because I got kind of switch changed in my process. But when I was there, I I would say probably 20 times. Nobody in the class knew the word, but because I could speak French pretty well, the French and the Arabic words were close enough that it would, I would get it before everybody else because of the French background. And I could not understand how that even worked, but it happened so many times where the French was actually really, really useful. So I don't know. I'm sure
interesting.
somebody could tell you
Well,
why
I
that's
think
the
the
case.
same thing is kind of true. I think I was just watching last night. It was like old reruns of Hell's Kitchen, and like the maitre d's French, and he was talking to some guests or something, and they were kind of talking in French or something. Anyway, and I was like, I never took French, I took Spanish.
Yeah.
And so some of the words were, very close and similar to where I could pick it out, even though it wasn't specifically the same word. It was close enough that I was like, I'm pretty sure I know what that is.
That's
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I get it. I
That's
get it.
that's exactly what it was. It was just Arabic, where you're like, I don't know. It just looks like a squiggly and it's close to French.
Oh gosh, uh, that's hilarious. I'm sorry.
Pretty
Okay,
much how it went.
so you're in French. Excuse me. You're in Arabic for a year, you said, and
Right about a year. It's a little shy of a year. And
okay.
yeah, I'm in there. There's this poster, basically like this tile behind me. And it was right up against this wall, and it says, "You're already at Arabic school. Why don't you try West Point?" Something along those lines. And I had been sitting and reading all these dang Civil War books, and every one of these guys, Lee and Grant, everybody, just Burns, all of these guys, one after another after another, me, they all went to West Point, every single one of them. So naturally, I was like, well, crap, might as well try. And I got in, damn it. And that changed everything, because they're not going to pay to have somebody go through Arabic school while we're getting geared up to go to war. So that wasn't going to happen anymore. And they took my slot away and they gave it to somebody else, and they put me in the glass soldier box for the West Point kids.
And how did that go?
That was tough. That was very tough mentally, because we had developed a rhythm and a cadence, and we knew shit was about to hit the fan. This time wise, I was November of 02. I was at Arabic school. I got my nomination to West Point in December of 02. By May of 03, I was in the desert in Texas at Intel school out of Arabic, and we were looking at stuff that we can't talk about in preparation. So, right. It was a tough time, and I had a lot of friends who were in very heated, tough situations 6 months after I was there, which probably why I do what I do today. Put it that way.
Yeah. So you go to West Point. It's very difficult.
I did.
How long did it take you? Did you graduated, I presume?
I did not. So
didn't?
My story is interesting. Yeah, I was injured. I was injured while I was in Intel school, after I had been accepted to West Point, but before I reported to the academy, I got banged up. And when I showed up, the long story short is I started to wake up and have these chest pains. The reality of it was I had some cartilage issues with my chest, costochondritis, inflammation in the chest wall. And it was fairly intense. And it ended up it was an overuse injury. Too many damn push-ups. I mean, that's really what was happening. I was breaking down, and my body was saying no. And part of it was, it was self-inflicted. I don't think people really understand how hard it is to get into West Point. There's about 25,000 applications for each individual slot. So, you're pushing yourself to the absolute max to be able to get into that group. And I overdid it. I did it very, very badly. Overdid it. And, we were running, I think my mile time was down in the 430s, 425, 430 mile times. And my push-ups were out of, it really was athlete on next level. So when I was pushing myself that hard, I was bound to be broken afterwards.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got to West Point. They waived me in with my injury, and 2 years later, they sent me home for the same problem. They said non-commissionable, non-deployable. But those 2 years at the academy were pretty cool. And, again, more of the same, learning about the system, being injured inside of service, going through the med board process, PEB, getting kicked out and all that stuff. And then finally fighting the VA on the backside. It was a PhD level education in the VA system from
Yeah,
the get-go.
I can imagine. Now let's talk
Mhm.
about that transition. Um,
Sure.
so they tell you you're non-deployable,
Mhm.
uh, and at that point, are you in medical, or does West Point have a medical?
I know it's such a weird thing. You're in your regular classes, you go to school and stuff, but then Thursday night I would get on a plane, fly down to Walter Reed, do treatments down at Walter Reed all weekend, fly back Sunday night and be in class Monday. And this was on an ongoing basis for months and months and months and months. And I mean, 2 years of that stuff, they finally just
Wow,
said enough is enough. This is
because
out
you're
of
not
here.
getting any better.
Not getting any
So,
better.
what was it like for the med board process with
Same
West
med
Point?
board process, I think, other than, you know, see, West Point is so weird because you don't really have and I can't even tell you what it normally is like because I didn't experience that. I see it
Right.
with some of my clients in how they are arriving from their units with their PEB packet or their med board packet or whatever. But ultimately, I think that process is the same. What's different is you don't really have those unit level liaisons or assistants with it. I mean, in West Point, you're just essentially a college kid, and they just whatever, get out of here,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Because
A little
the
different.
what I'd heard, and this was from my youngest veteran, um, was that they only have like in DC is like 6 doctors that go through all of the med board requests across all of the branches. Now I don't know how true that is, but as slow as some of them take, it wouldn't surprise me.
That honestly doesn't surprise me at all, and it seems pretty realistic compared to um, the people that I was talking to and the processes that I was seeing. That
Wow.
made sense at least back in 2005 when I was going through the process.
Yeah. And this would have been last year. So for my
Oh, good
son. So
grief!
but yeah, so okay. The they go through the med board process. They
Mhm.
finally determine that they're going to med board you out.
Sure.
Do they provide you any transitional assistance like taps or anything of that sort?
No, see, that's where West Point really is different from everybody else. I had to beg and plead to leave West Point, and obviously because I didn't want to, my fingernails are still stuck at Thayer Walk. I promise you, because I didn't want to go. But my complaint was, look, I'm in college at this point. I'm not able to go be in the military anymore due to disability. If you're gonna kick me out and you like, let's just get over with. Send me to school so I'm not further behind the rest of my classmates or my cohort at my age level. Let's just not sit here and paint rocks or make big rocks into smaller rocks. We could
Yeah.
be useful here. And I happened to be dating the commandant's daughter, or the chief of staff's daughter at the time. And I remember, my TAC officer at West Point said, you're going to have to just use your ace in the hole here and get out of here, because you're just going to sit around for over a year until they move you out. And I didn't really want to do that, and I obviously wanted to continue at West Point, but at the same time, I really just wanted to get on with life. It was a dead end at that point.
Yeah. So
But
you're Transition took how long?
One day.
That was it.
I got the order on August 15th. I was on a plane on the 16th, and I started Indiana University undergrad on August 18th. And it was a
Wow.
3-day good luck. And I think I landed at IU. I mean, I landed in Fort Wayne, back home. Mom and I loaded up a minivan of what little junk I had, and went and found an apartment. Started class 2 days later, and yeah, I mean, there was zero transition for me. In fact, when I filed for my education benefits later on that year, just because I filed the GI Bill benefit claim, they denied me because I hadn't even been discharged. So I had no actual real removal from service. It took over a year for them to actually discharge me. So it was a real cluster of all clusters.
I would say so. Because, yeah, I was surprised that hearing you say that it took one day. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you're out, bye, see you, and the next day you're on a plane and done. Because, as I said, my son, I mean, it took, gosh, it was, I think, December when they finally started the med board process on him, even though, because he fell through the cracks for a year. So it was like December, and it wasn't until July that
That's
he
pretty
was,
typical. Yeah.
but he had his packet in hand when he left.
Right.
So,
Amazing.
that's crazy that would happen, and it makes me wonder if it's strictly that way with West Point, or
I
if
know.
it's that way, because I haven't heard anything like that with the other branches for those who've been on as guests or that I've met out in public with medical discharges. So it's interesting to hear because um, it's unique in from what I'm hearing. So that's,
I think
you
it
know,
really was a situation where personnel didn't even really do what they're supposed to do. It's just like, we could take the body of this person and move him out of the academy, and we'll deal with the processing later. And I think that's what occurred. And maybe I got some special treatment. I'm sorry, but I was very grateful to move on uh, and start school, start the
yeah,
process of all over again.
yeah. So you go through school,
I
and
did.
did you
I
graduate?
did to IU. Yeah. Did you graduate? Yes, I did. Thank you. Finally, I got to IU.
Just a second.
I filed for education benefits. I was denied by the VA
Yeah,
because I wasn't a veteran, and they're like, "You're not a veteran. You don't count." And I
because
finished my
you weren't discharged.
because I didn't discharge properly from West Point. After they
Like it was
finally
your fault.
discharged, I know, of course. But meanwhile,
Shame
I'm
on you.
still in school and I couldn't use my GI Bill benefits. And of course, it's when nickels were rubbed together to try to make more nickels. That's how much we had at the time. So, yeah, couldn't have been a need it more, had it less situation for me. But finally got into IU, finally got the discharge taken care of. Ye gods, that was wonderful. Finally got into the VA system. And at the end of all of that, I had finished my undergrad degree. So it's like, well, what the heck am I going to use this GI Bill benefit for?
So they didn't
And
reimburse your time.
no, I just didn't, it wasn't really available as an option. And so I decided at that point, given the fight that I had gone through with the VA, that, maybe I should be an attorney. Seems like the attorney thing to do. You need to know how this world works. You need to know how this system works in order to be taken care of, taken seriously, taken care of. And that's where I started the VOC rehab process. And that's when it really started to come together. VA paid for my law degree and my MBA through the Voc Rehab program. Upon completion of that, they paid for the bar exam, and then they hired me as a rater inside the VA. So essentially had gone from, I have no idea how the system works, doing it wrong every single way for years and years and years, to uh, being trained by the VA how to do it, which changed everything, for sure.
And how long were you with the VA?
364, 3 days, something like that.
Just enough to learn the ins and outs, right?
Just enough to get trained, and just enough to for VA to learn that I'm not one of those nails that stays nailed down and very well. I was, when you're sitting in a room and you have a licensed attorney and me, and I'm being trained something by someone who doesn't have a law degree, who's telling me to do something that's highly not correct, I'm going to raise my hand and say, well, I don't think that's really how do that too many times. So, yeah, I didn't last at VA very long. That's okay. I hired my friends and my mentors, and we have way more fun doing it
Okay,
this
so
way.
you're no longer with the VA, and so
Mhm.
you start a company.
Yes. There was a little bit of a detour. I hadn't put it together yet. You'd think it would have been together with all of these experiences, that I would have just immediately just started the business and gone, but I didn't. When I was in law school and the government was paying for it, I was like, well, you might as well have fun with it. So I really dug into sports. I had really cool sports internships. The NCAA, I was their legal intern.
Wow.
While we were litigating all of this right of publicity and their ability to do this transfer portals and all this. This is all the stuff that we were working on. And I had an internship with the Tampa Bay Lightning hockey team, NHL team. Interviewed with all sorts of sports teams. So I had this really great sports track. And then after leaving the VA, I took a job as in-house counsel with a sports agency, where we were working for Formula One and NASCAR and all sorts of
That sounds
racing
fun.
contracts and stuff. So yeah, it was not like I was doing anything that was not cool, believe me, but it wasn't my passion. And then ultimately what was happening was I was working at the sports agency, and lunchtime would come around and I'd have a vet come into the office and we'd work on their case and try to put stuff together for him. And then his buddy would send over. Next thing I know, I have a line, and next thing I know, I'm having more fun helping vets than I am writing contracts for Bernie Ecclestone. And I just, this isn't a life if you're regretting getting up and going to work every day.
Yeah.
And you'd rather be having fun helping people that you care about, solving problems that really make a damn difference in their life. And that was it. To me, I put the pieces together finally after leaving that leaving the sports agency, working with people who I worked with at the VA, people who were willing to just do it for free, do it because they loved vets, do it because they still wanted to use the knowledge that they have, and they wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And that's where we started. And man, that's what I'm really proud of, to tell you the truth.
So let's talk about that. The name of your business?
Simmonds Law. We are a veterans benefits law practice. And, where most attorneys out there who are in the veterans benefits world are usually in all sorts of personal injury. We only do veterans benefits. And I don't do any Social Security whatsoever. So I'm just purely, very extremely focused only on the stuff that matters to our vets.
Okay. And the website for you is?
SimmondsLawVets.com, or we just bought a new domain, stillinthefight.com, because nobody can spell Simmonds. It's okay.
What's interesting is, I guess, I don't know, they try and when you type stuff in, it's
Mhm.
like autocorrect, right? And they try and
Correct.
assume they know what you're looking for.
Of
And
course.
it's like, no, you don't know what I'm looking for. Just give me what I want and we'll be good here.
Yeah.
Um, there it is. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so people can see your web page.
Website under development. Yeah, still under development. We're working
But
on it right now.
yeah,
It is there though. No, it's honestly, it's kind of fun. It's been what we've been working on in the background. I'm not a web guy by any means, but what we are doing is we're building this really cool dashboard and the ability for you to track everything that's happening and communicate with us. And it's been quite the process. So kind of fun.
yeah. I mean, so they can contact you. I don't see well, let's see if I click
Right
the
there.
oh yeah, up
That's
here.
it.
This
Yep.
number up here. So now tell me, is it strictly for your area? Are you available across the nation? Now you said clients in Korea, so
Mhm.
is this worldwide?
It is worldwide, anywhere. If you're a veteran and or a next to kin of a veteran who's since deceased, we're here to help. It doesn't. We have no jurisdictional requirements. The big thing is service. What type of service do you have, and or what type of service did the veteran have? That's really the limiting differentiator as to who we can help and who we can't.
So can you elaborate on that for us?
Sure. So veterans benefits attorneys, we can't really help every veteran. That's kind of the misnomer that's out there. And I think the vast majority of people who come to me who I can't assist with are generally people who haven't started the process yet, which is extremely frustrating because most of them have stopped because they don't know what to do. So they want to talk to somebody to make it happen. The truth is, it's one of those systems where you have to start and fail and then seek help after you've already fallen on your face, which of course, for all of us type A personalities in the military is extremely frustrating and we don't like it. However, kind of how it works, either you have to go have somebody do it for free and screw it up, or you have to kind of research how it all works, file your claims, get denied, and then go seek assistance afterwards. But who do I help? I help people who have already filed a claim at the VA, who have either been denied or who have been granted, and they're like, this sucks. This isn't remotely fair. Those are the people that I help. Ultimately, I fix broken crap at the VA. Ultimately, people who are frustrated and angry about where they are sitting currently at the VA system. And yes, there's a whole lot of people out there who are frustrated and angry at the VA. So, the phone is ringing constantly. What we do is different from everybody else. We're all former VA Raiders, my whole team. I'm the only attorney, and everybody else is a paralegal, and we all work together equally. So, not a whole lot of ego going on here. Really, truthfully, what it is all about is a bunch of people who know what they're doing, who work together as a team to strategically put you in the best position possible, given what you qualify for, what your disabilities dictate, how the file comes together. Usually, vets come to me and they're like, I want to get to 100 or something along those lines. This is the typical line that I hear. And I'm like, look, not everybody gets to 100, plain and simple. What we do is we play chess. We play chess against the VA. We're better than the VA is at playing chess. The reason I know that is because they trained us, and oh yeah, all of us have been asked by the VA to come back and train their employees over and over and over and over again. I'm sick of being asked to go work for the VA. So, yeah, we we're really good. that's that's the best way I can describe it. We're really good at playing chess so that we can solve what is going on, or at least explain how to fix it. That's probably the best way to describe it.
So, for the people who are interested in your services, tell me about like the consultation. Is that a free service that you offer?
I do. Actually, I'm the weird attorney out there who literally looks at every single person who comes in the system. So, what we provide, it's to me, I started this business as, you know, survivor's guilt's real. I have a lot of friends who are no longer with us, plain and simple, who did my job, whether it be a lieutenant in the army, or infantry officer, or an Arabic cryptolinguist attached to snatch and grab units in Iraq. All of it to say there's a whole lot of people who went where I didn't go and where I was supposed to go. And as a result, we treat this, we're a law practice. We're for profit, obviously. I'm not, this isn't a legal aid. But what I do is I give everybody the time to look at their files as if it were our own. So if you come into our system and you want to know what the answer is to your equation, I'll give you what we would do if you were in our shoes. And that's 100% free to everybody. We'll pull your files. We look at what is there. We answer ultimately my team is all former VA employees. They're all going to look at it the way that VA trained us. And you want that. You want a defensive approach. What is VA going to do if they see this file? That's intel that every single person needs. So we'll give it to you. And then when you and I, the veteran, sits down after looking at your case file, I'm going to have questions. What do you want? Why are you chatting with me? Anybody can file claims. Have you tried this? What's going on with your health? I see this in your file. Is that what you really mean to say? Oh yeah, let's talk about this big turd that's in the room that nobody's really talking about. That's the kind of conversations that we have. And then usually at that point, we can make a determination as to whether or not it's a go or no go for us. Ultimately, most vets, and I was just being completely honest, I think we turn away 90 to 95% of people who come to us. Not as I'm never going to help you ever, but you still have work to do, dude. And you want to play, you got to have your file ready to go before you're ready to play in the big leagues. Granted, we've had dudes that come to us that filed claims back in 1978 that VA never worked. And they're now very happy because they've been taken care of. However, those are the kind of situations that we don't really know what's in the file unless we look and see what VA did, how they screwed it up. So part of why we do what we do is, I'm willing to look at it for free just as this is what I would do. Don't kill yourself over VA benefits. It's something that it's a solvable question. It's something that you can talk to somebody and get an answer as to what the answer is for. We don't need to lose
several people that are out there that can help if it's
for sure.
a VSO, the
right.
DAB.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm not the only guy in the world that can do this. And it certainly is, okay, dude, I'm only a 6-person team. And, frankly, we're a 6-person team. We like it that way. But not every case makes sense financially. And ultimately, most people, when I tell them, look, I can do this for you and charge you a few $1,000, or you can go do it yourself and you're probably going to win. And if you fail, you can call me back after. Everybody's going to take that opportunity to get that free shake at it, if they're willing to do it. You just got to really know how to move the pieces, ultimately.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So what would you say for, a veteran that has gone through the process,
Mhm.
has been denied, gets so frustrated because they were denied, and they're like, you know what, I'm done and I'll just suffer in silence. And, what kind
Don't.
of words of wisdom do you have?
Uh, whew. One, I think the most important thing to hear right away is you're not alone. I would say almost everybody, and I mean out of 20 million vets, everybody, almost everybody, has to be denied in one way, shape, or form before they win. And that is a horrible truth to hear,
Yeah.
but don't take it personally, damn it. This is a system that those rejections are coming through as a self preservation tactic. The system is loosey goosey. It is technically easy to win. We want it that way for our vets, but also we want to keep the people who are scamming and causing problems in the system out. And as a result, yes, we have a lot of artificial churn and burn and crap in the system that has to be pushed out or artificially held back. But at the end of the day, don't for a second think that because the government tells you no, that's the answer. The real answer is, what does your heart tell you inside? And how do
Okay.
you work on communicating what you really feel and what you're really legally entitled to the government? Almost everybody really is just not communicating very well with the government. That's really what we see more often than not.
And taking this a little step further, I think in your line of work, and this is going to be kind of a legal question, and you can tell me if you
Mhm.
can't answer this, but what in your line of work is considered a veteran who would qualify for the VA?
Simple question, honestly, is, when people come to me, that I always ask them, one of the main questions I ask them is, what are you trying to prove when you're going to the VA? Or what are you really trying to get when you're getting this service connection? And ultimately, to qualify for VA benefits, the blush test, if you will, is that you have a permanent problem today. That's pretty basic. If you've got a diagnosis of something, that would probably be a permanent problem. But a permanent problem, which is caused or aggravated by, that's the hard part of the equation. So part one is you got a permanent problem. Part two, you've got a causation or an aggravation of some sort that VA gets to determine that. And part three is the event or the incident inside of service. So you're basically trying to prove these three things. I have a problem today as a result of something that happened while I was on active duty service. And if you fill those three, I call them the three bowling pins. If you can knock over those three bowling pins for each individual contention that you're trying to file a claim for, you're entitled to benefits. You just have to prove it. That's it. So if a veteran is ever wondering, do I qualify? They really only have to ask those three questions. How is it this thing that I'm dealing with today is caused by what happened during active duty time? And if you know that answer and you can feel it in your heart, you can sit down and write a statement about it, and you're
Okay.
entitled to benefits. That's it. That's how it works.
Wonderful. And I think that's a question that I hear that a lot from a lot of newer veterans who've, uh, recent military and,
Mhm.
and and recent veterans who maybe had um, one tour and that was it, or one enlistment. And I, the technical term for a veteran, of course, is honorably
Oh,
or
right. There's
discharged.
massive, there's 15 different caveats back and forth for a veteran, but
Correct.
ultimately, if you served on active duty during a period of honorable service, you're going to be fine.
Right. And so is it not an automatic thing that if you served active duty, honorably discharged, or an honorable service, then that you automatically receive benefits at some point? It's not.
No, you have to
It
claim
has
it
to go back to any kind of an issue that you perceived happened was the
during
causation of what's
active
happening now. Yes.
today.
Okay.
Correct.
So,
And
and
you're
that
not
helps.
automatically entitled to it if it happens. So let's say, for example, the classic example is you're in combat, you get shot, God forbid, and you get medically discharged. Okay, no doubt about it. The government, the military, everybody knows that you got injured on active duty, but you don't win until you file a claim. So you got to file a claim with the government, with the VA system. Part of the legislation change over the last 10 years was to make it so that that system is seamless between med board and VA system. But ultimately, you file a claim. I come in after VA decides what to do with that. They say, yes, granted 10%. You're like, that's ridiculous. You need to find out
That's
if they
when the
shorted you in the evaluation. That's a will question. Number
yeah.
two is I got denied. That's ridiculous. I got shot in, Iraq. It's a will question. Why are they denying you? What's the reason why? And then go attack that kind of thing.
But the general thought that it's a contract when you sign on the dotted line,
Mhm.
between government and an individual, and that if one side is fulfilling, the individual is fulfilling that contract, that the government would also have to fulfill their side of that contract isn't always
That's
the
right.
case. Is
That's
kind of
right. And it's the question of what's included in those contract terms. They're going to fight about that all the time too.
good to
But
know.
yes, yeah, definitely good advice to everybody. Uh, when I tell everybody, if you've never filed a claim at the VA before, you have to do what I call it's the exercise, and that's just take a blank piece of paper, draw a line down the center of the blank piece of paper, and on the left hand side of the page, number it one through whatever. It doesn't even matter what the numbers are, but you want to start at the top of your head and work all the way down to the bottom of your feet, inside and outside, internal, external, visible, non-visible. All of that is the things that are going on, the things that are quote unquote wrong with you right now. Left side of the page, make a list. And then on the right side of that page, in that, the space that you have available, in 2 to 3 words, because that's all you want it to be very simple. In 2 or 3 words, how is it related to something that happened on active duty? If you can write it in 2 or 3 words, that's a claim all day long. If you can't figure out how it's related to service, cross it off. It's not a claim. And there is your list of the things that you're claiming. And then when you file your claims for all those things, you write really good, strong statements explaining how it happened and what's going on. And then let go and let God. Go to your exams, let VA rate it. And when it's all screwed up, you know who to call.
Because inevitably, right?
I'm honest. I mean, legit. I see. VA is going to give you different numbers than what I
They are.
see,
Yeah, yeah.
but and that's part of that is scope. Part of that is public relations. But I will say that of the cases that I look at, 90% of them have something wrong inside the case that VA has decided. So their numbers are going to say there's no way that 90% of cases are wrong. They're going to look at it more on a contention by contention basis. I look at it as a document by document.
Which,
One
yeah.
little thing is wrong on that thing. 90% of those, yeah, there's something wrong in there. Now, is it dispositive or problematic? That depends.
So, for those of you who have questions Will, go ahead and put those in the chats for me. Uh, for those that are looking to join the military, William, what kind of words of wisdom do you have for them?
Oh, joining the military. Um, Thank you. I love you. Thank you for taking care of my family. That's number one. Number two, don't lose sight of that. The call to something bigger, the call to better yourself. Thank you for that. Use that and use the military just as you're helping, use it to help yourself as well. Don't be afraid to use the military to better yourself. There's no way I would have picked up Arabic or gone to West Point if I didn't have that military boost. I'm sure people would say the same thing about, you know, airborne school or SEAL school or anything else in the sun. So don't lose sight of those opportunities because they truly are amazing. And document everything for the love of God. Document everything.
Yeah, I can tell you as a mom, when my son was in medical and he would call in tears, I literally would be writing it down because I knew the medication he was taking was making him forgetful. And so I would
Yeah.
jot down the date, the time that he would call, and a general idea of what it was that was happening. And then was able to, at least at a minimum, because he had some serious issues happening with those who were in charge there at that time. IG complaints were filed. Let's just put it that way.
It's just terrible. I know. It's awful.
But so we've got Jason says, William, thank you for your service, sir.
My
Let's
pleasure.
see. And then let's see. Noel, thank you for being here, by the way. Will's an amazing resource for veterans.
Oh,
And will
hey, I
not
know Noel. He doesn't
you
suck at all.
you do know Noel. Will not only came highly recommended to me, but I highly recommend him to everyone. So that's
Thanks,
huge
buddy.
praise. Let's see. We were talking about translation and how like French and Arabic go together. And Noel says, as a Southerner, I translate English to English for people outside of the Southern states. Which, when I
That's
saw that, I did have to chuckle because I live in the South now, and I didn't used to. So that was pretty funny. Uh,
100%.
and
Man, you guys are really great for not asking all these personal legal questions. When I do these, sometimes I get a lot of that. So, thank you for that. But if you really do have a question on your own stuff, don't,
Yeah, and we're getting
I,
down there. There's some more. So Noel says that the DAV screwed up his paperwork pretty severely. Well-intentioned intentioned people, but a bad process. Then
see that a lot.
Walton Groggins.
Hi, Mom.
I'm not
Is that your son?
not unless he changed his name, but
That's
howdy.
cool. Hey.
Just I do go by mom, capital M, small O, capital M for some veterans because I'm a mother of Marines, plural.
Gotcha.
So I am not single, Walton, but thank you.
Oh boy.
Wow, this turned into a dating
He's
site.
got the
Okay.
riz. He's got the
Wow.
riz.
My husband
That's
is
cool.
on here in the chats as well. So this will,
Of
so
course.
stay calm. It's all good. So I want to say thank you very, very much and appreciate everything that you're doing. I know you do it
My pleasure.
obviously for profit, but just the knowledge that you have and that you're willing to help is immeasurable. And
I
as
appreciate you,
Jason says,
Jason. That's nice.
yes, your time is valuable. We all appreciate you taking the time to do that. And Jason is, saying she is mine and you can't have her. Gotta love it when they stick up for you.
Of course.
So But yeah, if you want to hold tight, I want to say thank you for everybody who joined me today. I am looking for guests for next weekend. So hopefully we will have a show next weekend. And we wish you the best week starting out here. I go back tomorrow to work. I've been off for 2 weeks. And so, yeah, it's it'll be fun. I kind
Yeah.
of felt like I was playing hooky, even though I had the time. But
I
you know
know,
how it
right? This past week has been surreal. I'm, partially sick, partially trying to not work, partially so overwhelmed I have to catch up with stuff that was from Christmas week that I
goes.
was still
Yeah,
slightly behind on. But,
we'll get
it's
there.
we'll get there. It's
That's right.
nobody's trying too hard right now, man. it's still, come on. We'll get
That's
there.
right. That's right. So if you hang tight for me, again, everybody watching in the chats and who will watch this later, please have a wonderful and very safe week coming up. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we will see you next Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time.
Amen. Thank you guys.